How Amish families wipe out every mosquito without harming a single honeybee. But there is something almost nobody talks about when they discuss this method. Something that reveals why the plain communities have solved a problem that keeps modern neighborhoods trapped in a monthly spray cycle. It is not actually about the mosquitoes at all. Stay with me, because by the end of this script, I am going to show you the real reason why one choice in how you manage water on your property creates a mosquito desert or a mosquito nursery, and it has nothing to do with chemicals or equipment. If you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe and drop a comment below telling me what your biggest pest problem is on your property. I want to know what is keeping you up at night. Are you being eaten alive? Is it getting worse each summer? Let me know. Wait, before we go further, I need you to understand something crucial about how this actually works. The complete survival guide to forgotten pest control methods and water management is in the description and pinned in the comments below. It covers the deeper patterns and mechanisms of what I am about to show you. Check it out if you want the full picture. The real secret is something my grandfather discovered almost by accident when he was not trying to solve the mosquito problem at all. He was solving a water problem. See, in an Amish farm, every drop of water matters. Not for vanity, for survival. You cannot afford waste because you are not running endless piped water from a utility company. Every gallon comes from a hand pump, a cistern, or collected rain. So when my grandfather built his system, he was not thinking about mosquito control. He was thinking like someone who cannot afford to lose resources. Here is what most people, and most pest control companies, have completely backward. They think mosquito control happens in the air. You spray, you fog, you create a chemical barrier, the mosquito dies before it even reaches your porch. Sounds logical, right? The Amish think the opposite direction entirely. They think backward, in time, to before the mosquito exists. Because a mosquito that was never born cannot bite you. And a mosquito is not born in the air. It is born in water. In standing water that sits undisturbed for more than 4 or 5 days. This is the crack in the system that most people never even see. A female mosquito does not need a pond or a pool. She needs nothing bigger than a bottle cap, a saucer under a planter, a dent in a tarp, the gutter above your garage that you forgot was clogged. She lays between 1 and 300 eggs at a time, and the whole operation takes less than 3 minutes. An Amish family does not wait for that to happen. They do not wait for the eggs to hatch. They do not wait for the larvae to grow into pupae. They kill it in the water, before wings, before flight, before it ever has a chance to hunt. This is where most English families get trapped. They see one mosquito in July and call the spray company. The spray truck comes. The yard smells like a chemistry lab for 6 hours. The mosquito dies. You pay $200. For 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, you get peace. Then new mosquitoes hatch from standing water in that low corner of your yard where you cannot drain the water because it is past the tree line. New mosquitoes hatch in the rain barrel behind your shed because you never installed a screen. And the cycle starts again. It is a subscription service. The pest control industry needs you to lose this battle every summer, and they are very good at making sure you do. The Amish break that cycle in a way that costs almost nothing and works from the source. My grandfather used to walk this property every Saturday morning in summer. He carried an empty coffee can and a stick. He checked every saucer under every potted plant. He tipped out every bucket, every wheelbarrow, every low spot where water had pooled during the week. He called it walking the line. It took an hour, once a week. That was it. In the places he could not drain, the livestock trough, the low pasture where water collected in spring, he used a second method, a trick he learned from his father, who learned it from his father. A method so simple that when you first hear about it, you will think, I am either joking or leaving something out. I am not. This is the complete system. And it is about to expose why one family stays mosquito-free for 9 years while their neighbors pay $1,200 annually to people who have no interest in solving the actual problem. The mechanism works like this. You identify every place on your property where water can collect and become trapped for longer than 4 days. Then you remove it, drain it, dump it, cover it. Or, and this is the crucial choice point, you poison the water in a way that is completely invisible to honeybees, butterflies, songbirds, children, and pets. Invisible, specific, devastating only to mosquito larvae. This single decision, how you handle standing water, creates the difference between living like a tenant in your own backyard and actually owning the space. The first bucket I set out every June sits about 40 yards from the house. Behind the tool shed where my wife hangs the wash, I fill it about halfway with rainwater collected from the gutter downspout. Nothing fancy, just gravity and gravity's job. Then I take a handful of grass clippings, fresh cut, nothing dead or composted, and drop them in. The clippings are important. They create a slightly acidic environment, and they give the mosquito larvae something to feed on. The female mosquito is drawn to that smell. She thinks she has found the perfect nursery. She has found a trap. One heaping spoonful of mosquito bits goes into that bucket. That is the entire chemistry lesson. The bits contain something called BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. It is a naturally occurring soil bacterium, not a chemical compound, not something synthesized in a laboratory. A bacterium that exists in soil everywhere on this planet. What BT does is very specific. It attacks the gut lining of mosquito larvae, only mosquito larvae. The toxin does not activate unless the larva has that exact gut pH and those exact digestive enzymes. A honeybee that lands on the water and drinks from it? Nothing happens. A songbird? Nothing. Your dog splashing through the bucket during play? Completely safe. A butterfly that dips its proboscis into the water looking for minerals? No effect whatsoever. The mosquito larva drinks it and dies within 24 hours. Now, before we continue, keep this in mind for a second. The pest control industry has known this works for 40 years, 4 decades, and most of them still do not use it. Not because it does not work, not because it harms anything. They do not use it because it solves the problem permanently. Once you understand the mechanism, you can do this yourself for $17. A professional service charges $200 per visit, once a month, for 6 months. That is $1,200 a year, year after year. The BTI option refunds itself on the first application. This is not a conspiracy. It is simply mathematics. The business incentive does not align with the customer outcome. You need to understand that going forward, because it changes how you evaluate the advice you receive about your own property. My grandfather did this work by hand every Saturday morning in summer. He called it walking the line. He moved through the property with an empty coffee can and a small bucket. Anywhere he found standing water that had collected over more than 4 days, he would either tip it out or, in places where the water could not be drained, he applied the equivalent of his era, which was vegetable oil poured in a thin film across the top of the water. Oil creates a barrier. The mosquito larva needs to reach the surface to breathe. Oil blocks that surface. The larva drowns. It worked then. It still works now. The difference now is that you have options. You can use the method my grandfather used, oil, which requires reapplication every 2 to 3 weeks, or you can use BTI, which lasts longer and requires no reapplication if you refresh the water every 2 weeks, or if rainfall adds new water to the bucket. The strategy changes only slightly depending on where you live. In areas with high rainfall and standing water that collects naturally in low spots or ditches, you might need 3 or 4 buckets instead of 1. In dry climates where standing water is rare, 1 bucket might be all you need. The principle remains identical. You are not killing a flying insect. You are preventing the water from becoming a hatchery in the first place. Most people get this backwards. They wait until the mosquitoes are thick enough to chase them off the porch. Then they call someone to fog the yard. The fog kills the adults that are already airborne. It also kills beneficial insects on the same property. The larvae in the water survive because the fog does not reach into standing water reliably. 48 hours later, new adults emerge from that same water. This is why you see the cycle repeat. Fog. Wait. Mosquitoes return. Fog again. The cycle continues because the source was never treated. Your grandfather never had to call anyone. He knew where the water was. He knew what happened in that water if it sat untouched for more than 4 days, and he solved it at the source. This is the work no one pays to see because there is no recurring profit in it. Before we continue, keep this in mind. The information I am about to share with you comes from generations of plain community knowledge that has been refined through necessity, not marketing. The complete ebook guide on Amish pest management and the natural science behind it is available in the description and in the pinned comment below. It covers the mechanics of why this works, the seasonal timing, regional variations, and how to adapt it to your climate and property size. This is not free content. It is a paid resource. but it contains details that a 15-minute video simply cannot hold. Get it if you want to understand the full picture. Now, the difference between what works and what fails is this. The person who succeeds sees the problem before the mosquito does. Your grandfather did not wait until August to act. He did not wait until the neighborhood children were scratching welts at dinner. He started in May. May is when the first warm rains begin to fall. That is when your standing water situation changes overnight. A damp spot becomes a pool. A low corner of the garden becomes a collection point. The gutters fill, the tarps sag, and mosquito eggs, dormant through winter, begin to hatch. Most people discover this in July when they cannot sit on the porch. By then, there are millions of larvae already developing. You are playing catch-up against an enemy that has a 2-month head start. The Amish approach is different. It is preventive. It is scheduled. It is almost boring in its consistency because that is the point. Boring works. Excitement means you waited too long. In early May, before the heavy rains arrive, you walk your property. Every property is different. If you have a half acre, this takes 30 minutes. If you have 50 acres, it takes longer. You are looking for anything that collects water. Old tires, buckets without lids, tarps with sagging centers, clogged gutters, bird baths that have not been maintained, the flower saucer under your porch pot, even a depression in the ground that does not drain properly. Most people find between 12 and 30 spots on a typical residential property. Write them down. You will need to remember them. For every spot that can be eliminated, eliminate it. Drill a hole in that tire. Empty the saucer daily. Clean the gutter. Drain the bird bath and refresh it. This removes maybe 60% of your breeding ground in one afternoon of work. For every spot that cannot be eliminated because it serves a purpose, you apply the mosquito bits. The rain barrel has to stay. The cattle trough has to stay. The low spot in the pasture fills after heavy rain and you cannot prevent it. These are the places where you intervene chemically. One application of mosquito bits per location lasts about 2 weeks. After that, you reapply. The cost is low. $17 for a container handles most residential properties for an entire season. Compare that to a single professional spray treatment, which runs $200 and lasts maybe 30 days. But there is something else the plain community does that most people overlook entirely. They accept that some mosquitoes will still exist. They do not chase perfection. They chase reduction. They chase comfort. Once you have eliminated the standing water and treated the essential sources, you move to the second layer of defense. Certain plants repel mosquitoes naturally, not because of some mystical property, but because of the oils in their leaves. Basil, lavender, mint, marigold, rosemary. These are not new discoveries. They have been grown around homes for centuries because they work. Plant them near your porch. Plant them near your seating areas. Plant them near your windows. The mosquitoes do not disappear. You simply do not become their landing pad. You remain invisible to them in a different way, not through poison, but through repellent plants that you can also cook with. This is the elegance of the Amish approach. It layers solutions. It removes the source. It treats the water. It surrounds the living space with plants that discourage the pest. By the time you add in basic timing, dawn and dusk are peak mosquito hours. Stay inside or cover exposed skin. You have moved from zero control to nearly complete control without a single chemical spray. The honeybees continue to visit the flowers. The butterflies continue to feed. The songbirds that hunt insects at dusk continue their work. Your dog runs barefoot through the yard. No, wait. Dogs do not have bare feet, but you understand the point. The children play without risk. And 9 years. That is how long it has been since the first mosquito bite at the kitchen table on this particular farm. 9 years is not luck. 9 years is a system. A system so straightforward that most people miss it entirely because they are waiting for complexity. They expect to pay someone. They expect chemicals with warning labels. They expect the problem to require expertise they do not have. This is the revelation I promised you at the beginning. The secret that pest control companies have known about for 40 years. It is not secret at all. It is just not profitable. A bucket of water poisoned correctly stops mosquito reproduction at the source for 90 days. That costs $17, one time. Your neighbor down the road pays $200 a month, 12 months a year, to spray his yard with something that kills pollinators and still gets bitten because the spray only lasts a few hours and the female mosquito emerges from the water again in 3 days. You have a choice. You can choose the truck and the monthly invoice and the knowledge that somewhere in that mist, a honeybee is dying. Or you choose the bucket, the 15 minutes it takes to walk your property every few days. The $17 container of mosquito bits that lasts longer than any poison you could buy at that price. One small practical challenge before you go. This weekend, do what I did 9 years ago. Buy the bucket, buy the mosquito bits. Find the standing water on your property, the clogged gutter, the flower saucer, the low spot by the fence, and drain it or poison it. Do not overthink this. One afternoon of work. Then watch what happens when fall comes around and you realize you were never once the target of a mosquito all summer long. That is what 9 years looks like. Not perfection, just the simple knowledge that you solved the problem at the source, the way your great-grandparents did, the way the Amish still do, without waiting for someone else to fix it for you. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below and tell me what standing water you find on your property this weekend. I read every comment, and frankly, I learn as much from what you discover as you learn from what I share. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss the next upload. Thank you for watching.